My girlfriend announced at my mentor's retirement gala. Don't worry, I won't let him propose. I could do so much better. Then she listed my flaws while our colleagues cringed. I said nothing and left. When she came home looking for a fight, she found empty closets and a note from our landlord about the lease that had always been only in my name. This morning, 74 missed calls. I never thought the night would end with me walking away in silence, my heart a little broken but my mind oddly clear. My name is Thomas, and I'm 34 years old. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I've always considered myself a dependable guy. Maybe too dependable. That night was supposed to be about respect and celebration. My mentor, Alan, was retiring, and the Botanical Conservatory was packed with people who admired him. Old colleagues, a few new faces, even some of my own friends from the firm. Everyone was dressed to the nines, drinks in hand, and stories flowing like the wine. Clara, my girlfriend of 4 years, looked stunning. She was 31, in a sleek emerald dress that made her stand out, not that she needed the help. She had that easy confidence, that natural charm. She worked in PR, and the whole room seemed to orbit around her whenever she spoke. At first, I was just happy to see her shine. She was in her element, holding court by the koi pond, telling stories with those bright, expressive eyes. But as the night went on, her stories got louder, and her laughter edged into something else. I was chatting with Alan's wife, Grace, when I first heard Clara say, "Oh, the Alps? Don't get me started." I turned, catching the flicker of amusement in her eyes and the slight edge in her voice. Thomas wanted to hike at sunrise, she said, putting air quotes around it and rolling her eyes. But he wouldn't even let us take the funicular up the easy way. He was so uptight about it. Honestly, he's like a grandpa stuck in a 30-something's body. A few people laughed politely. I felt my face flush, but I didn't say anything. I'd always known Clara could be sharp with her humor. She was good at it. But something about the way she said it, like it was a private joke I hadn't agreed to, made my gut twist. The conversation drifted back to safe topics, but I couldn't stop watching her. She moved from group to group, a glass of champagne in her hand, her smile bright and brittle. Then someone, I think it was Alan's nephew, asked her, "So, are you two talking about getting engaged soon?" Clara barked out a laugh. "Oh, God, no," she said, shaking her head like the idea was too ridiculous to consider. "I'd never let him propose. I can do way better." The room fell into a hush. Clara didn't seem to notice, or maybe she didn't care. She took a sip of her drink and went on like she hadn't just crushed me in front of everyone. "He's a nice guy," she said with a shrug, "but he's not exactly ambitious, you know? He's obsessed with those boring documentaries. He's always playing safe. And don't even get me started on how he calls his dad every other night. I mean, who does that at 34? She laughed again, tossing her hair like it was all just harmless fun. But it wasn't. Not to me. I saw the shift in the crowd, polite smiles, awkward glances, someone biting back a comment. And me, standing there feeling like I'd just been stripped bare. I didn't say a word. I didn't argue or defend myself. I just felt my face go hot and my stomach knot up. The music played on, and Clara kept talking, oblivious or indifferent to how much she just revealed about how she saw me. I stayed for another 10 minutes, just long enough for Alan to finish his speech and for me to clap politely. Then I slipped out of the room and into the cool night air. No one stopped me. No one noticed, really. I walked to my car, the laughter and music fading behind me, and sat there for a while with my hands on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a couple of texts from a friend, one from Clara herself, something about meeting at the after-party. I didn't answer. I didn't even read them. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel unsure. I felt certain, like the ground had shifted under me, but in a way that finally made sense. I started the engine and drove away. It wasn't dramatic. There were no slammed doors or final words. Just me, choosing silence over any more humiliation. And somehow, that felt like the first real step I'd taken in years. 3 months earlier, I should have known something was wrong. I should have felt it in the way Clara would smile at me, that bright, performative grin she used in work meetings and client lunches. But I didn't see it then. I didn't want to see it. It was a Tuesday evening, late spring, and I had come home early from the site visit for a bridge project I was managing. Clara was in the living room, talking to her brother on speakerphone, her voice pitched with laughter I hadn't heard in a while. "Yeah, I'm just riding it out until the quarterly bonus. Then we'll see," she said. Her tone was light, almost flippant. "No, he's fine. He's fine. Pays for everything, and it's comfortable enough for now." She didn't see me at first. I stood in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, my breath caught in my throat. "I'm not worried," she said. "The condo's in my name, right? So it's not like he can just boot me out." She laughed, a quick, bright sound that made my stomach turn. "Anyway, I've got a plan. I always have a plan." I stepped back quietly, my mind spinning. I didn't even feel the weight of the backpack anymore. Just an ache, deep and hollow in my chest. That night, I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I lay in bed beside her, staring up at the ceiling, replaying her words like they were etched in neon. I wanted to believe I'd heard it wrong, that it was some misunderstanding. But I knew better. The next day, I started digging. The condo, the one she always said was technically hers, because she found it, because she decorated it, because she was the one who told people it was hers, turned out to be in my name. My loan. My down payment. I have been paying the mortgage for 3 years, every month without fail. I pulled the paperwork out of the fireproof box in the closet, reading every line until my eyes burned. There it was, clear as day. My name on the deed, the loan in my name, my initials on every signature page. She had been living in my home, using my money, and telling everyone she was just riding it out. It was like a fog lifted, and suddenly I saw her for who she really was. All the little jabs, the jokes about my job being boring, the way she'd roll her eyes when I put on another documentary, how she'd call my dad, your precious father, whenever I canceled plans to visit him. All of it snapped into focus. I didn't confront her. I didn't want the drama or the explanations that would never make sense. Instead, I started making plans. I signed a lease on a small, second-floor apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it had big windows and a kitchen that didn't need fixing. I had a friend who owned a moving company. I called him and quietly booked a truck for a Saturday 3 months out. Every night, after Clara fell asleep, I'd go through the condo, taking photos of what was mine and what was hers. The couch, hers. The kitchen table, mine. The bed, mine. The TV, hers. I made a list on my phone, meticulous and unemotional. I started forwarding my mail to the new address. Utilities, bank statements, even the magazines I never read but kept because Clara liked to leave them on the coffee table. Slowly, quietly, I moved my life out of that place in my mind, one detail at a time. I met with the property manager during my lunch break one Friday. She was an older woman named Donna, kind and no-nonsense. I showed her the lease paperwork, my name in black and white. "Can we make this a clean exit?" I asked, my voice steady. No notice to her. "Just the paperwork. I'll handle the rest." Donna nodded. "Of course, Thomas. We'll do it by the book." That night, I lay in bed next to Clara, her head on my shoulder. She was scrolling through her phone, laughing at something she wouldn't share with me. I stared at the ceiling, my mind already packed in boxes. I didn't feel anger anymore, or heartbreak. Just a cold, simple resolve. I was done playing along. She had her plan. Now, I had mine. The night after the gala was the first time in months I felt like I was moving with purpose. No hesitation. No second thoughts. I drove straight back to the condo, the echo of Clara's laughter still fresh in my mind. She wasn't home yet. Probably still out at the after-party, retelling her little performance to anyone who'd listen. I didn't care. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of another conversation. The condo was quiet when I stepped inside. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I knew where everything was. The muscle memory of a life I'd built and was about to walk away from. I grabbed the duffel bags I'd hidden in the closet weeks earlier, the packing tape I'd stashed in the kitchen drawer, and started working. My essentials first, the clothes I actually liked, the tools of my trade, my laptop, my work boots, my drafting kit, my toothbrush, my father's old watch, a few books I'd read 100 times but couldn't leave behind. Every item I packed felt like a small release. Like I was peeling her off me, layer by layer. I took photos of everything I left behind. Not for nostalgia, for clarity. So there would be no arguments later about what was whose. No claims, no confusion. Just evidence. The living room was half empty by the time I finished. The couch, the coffee table, the big framed prints she loved, hers. I didn't touch them. In the kitchen, I paused. There was a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the counter, her favorite. I poured myself a shot, steadying my breath. The burn in my throat felt good. Cleansing. I sent a text to the property manager, Donna. "It's done," I wrote. "Please post the lease notice on the fridge tomorrow morning. I won't be here." A few minutes later, she replied, "Understood. Good luck, Thomas." I packed the last of my things into the car, careful not to slam the trunk shut. I didn't want to wake the neighbors. I didn't want an audience for this. Before I left, I walked back through the condo one last time. The rooms were so quiet, so neat. No more laughter that wasn't mine. No more music I didn't like. Just the faint scent of her perfume hanging in the air, already fading. I left my keys on the counter next to the sink. A small gesture, but it felt final. Like signing my name to the end of this chapter. On my way out, I stopped at the mirror in the entryway. I barely recognized the man staring back at me, but for the first time in years, he didn't look tired. He didn't look unsure. He looked free. I drove across town to my new place, a modest 2-bedroom with big windows and a view of the old brewery district. The furniture was sparse, a bed, a couch, a small kitchen table, but it was mine. Every inch of it. I unloaded the car quietly, stacking boxes in the corner. I didn't unpack. I didn't need to. Just being there, in that space that was finally mine, was enough. Before I went to bed, I pulled out my phone and blocked Claire's number. I knew she'd be calling soon, once she realized I was gone. I didn't want to hear it, the excuses, the laughter, the soft voice that had turned so cold. I took one last look around the apartment. The floors were clean, the walls blank and full of promise. I felt a smile tug at the corner of my mouth, small, but real. Then I crawled into bed, pulling the blanket around me. For the first time in months, I didn't think about what she'd say or how she'd spin it. I didn't wonder if I was being too dramatic or too impulsive. I just closed my eyes and slept, deeply and completely. In the quiet of that new apartment, I realized something. I wasn't running away. I was starting over. And I was finally okay with that. The next morning, the text started before I even got out of bed. Thomas? Where are you? Why is the lease notice on the fridge? This isn't funny, Thomas. Each message sounded a little more frantic than the last. I didn't answer any of them. I just watched the notifications pile up like little digital echoes of the chaos she was trying to control. By noon, she was at it in earnest. Voicemails, too. Her voice, which used to be warm and teasing, now sounded tight and shrill. She wanted answers. She wanted to know where I'd gone, what I was doing, why I was doing this to her. But I wasn't doing anything to her. I was just done letting her do things to me. I knew she'd come by the condo eventually. I'd left everything in order, the kitchen spotless, the bedroom made up, her things untouched. I didn't owe her a show, but I knew she'd find one anyway. Sure enough, by late afternoon, I got an email from the property manager. Clara stopped by, Donna wrote. She was surprised, to say the least. She said she didn't understand, that she didn't think you'd actually leave. I read the message twice, feeling nothing. Just a calm, steady certainty. That night, she showed up at my office. I was in the middle of reviewing blueprints for a downtown pedestrian bridge project when I heard the receptionist's voice crackle over the intercom. Thomas, there's a woman here to see you. She says it's urgent. I didn't even have to ask who it was. Tell her I'm in a meeting, I said calmly. Thomas, she's really insistent, the receptionist said, hesitating. She's making a bit of a scene. I sighed. Tell her to leave her number and I'll get back to her. 10 minutes later, I heard the raised voices down the hall. Clara, her bright, practiced smile replaced by a desperate, angry edge. My coworkers, polite but firm, turning her away. I stayed in my office, staring at the plans on my desk, tracing the clean lines of concrete and steel that would never mock me in public, never laugh behind my back. When I finally opened my office door, Clara was gone. The hallway was quiet, and my colleagues avoided my eyes. My phone buzzed again. A text from her. I can't believe you're doing this. You're abandoning me like I'm nothing. You're cruel. I didn't answer. I just took a screenshot and saved it. I wasn't trying to be petty. I was being careful. Because if I'd learned anything, it was that she'd find a way to twist this into a story that made her the victim. A few hours later, I started getting messages from mutual friends. Hey, Clara says you left her out of nowhere. Is everything okay? She told me you just ghosted her. That doesn't sound like you. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore them, to let the silence speak for itself. But I realized that if I didn't set the record straight, she'd write the story for me. So I replied simply, sharing the screenshots of the lease documents, the messages from the property manager, the voicemail she'd left me last night, her voice tight and cold, calling me weak and ungrateful. Most of the friends fell quiet after that. A few sent back messages of support, small but sincere. Good for you, man, one of them wrote. She always treated you like an accessory. I didn't need them to pick sides. I just needed them to know the truth. The next day, I got a call from HR at work. Clara had come by again, more determined this time. She tried to corner me in the lobby, telling anyone who'd listened that I'd stolen the apartment from her, that I was hiding from my responsibilities. I sat in the small office with my boss, feeling the familiar flush of embarrassment, the sense of being exposed. But I stayed calm. I showed them the paperwork, the text messages. I explained that Clara wasn't on the lease, that I'd given her every courtesy in leaving, that I hadn't blocked her number out of spite. I'd done it because she'd crossed a line. They believed me. They issued a formal no-contact directive for her visits to the office. It felt weird, being in that position, but also empowering, like I was finally taking back control. By the end of the week, the frantic messages from Clara slowed to a trickle. She was still telling her version of the story to anyone who'd listen, still spinning herself as the abandoned, heartbroken girlfriend. But the more she talked, the more the cracks showed. And me? I just kept going. I went to work. I came home to my quiet apartment, with its sunlit kitchen and the faint smell of fresh paint. I cooked meals for myself, watched old documentaries in peace, called my dad every night without having to explain why. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about winning. It was about finally living a life that didn't have her voice in it, telling me I was boring, unambitious, a disappointment. She'd made me feel small for so long. Now, in the stillness of my new place, I realized just how big my life could be without her in it. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I felt like I was finally standing still, and that was exactly where I wanted to be. The fallout wasn't instant. It wasn't like a single domino falling and taking everything with it. It was more like slow-motion cracks spreading through glass, silent at first, but eventually too loud to ignore. I started getting more texts and calls from friends, mutual friends, mostly. People who had always liked Clara's easy confidence, who'd laughed at her stories even when the jokes were at my expense. "Hey, man, Clara says you kicked her out of the apartment. What's going on?" one of them asked. "She's telling everyone you blindsided her," another said. At first, I wanted to just let it go. Let them believe what they wanted. But I'd spent too long letting other people shape the story of my life. I wasn't going to let that happen again. So I took a deep breath and started replying. Calm. Simple. Factual. "She told you she lived there? The lease was in my name the whole time. I can send you the documents." "She said she didn't see it coming?" Here's the conversation she had with her brother. I overheard her talking about riding out the relationship until she got her bonus. I've got the screenshots. It wasn't about proving I was right. It was about making sure the truth was out there. At first, there was hesitation. Some friends didn't want to get involved, and I couldn't blame them. But others started to see through Clara's story. They stopped just echoing her words. They started asking questions. One friend, Amy, called me late one night. "Thomas," she said, her voice quiet. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. She told us you were, well, that you were boring and kind of checked out. But now it's obvious she was rewriting everything. I didn't need apologies. I just needed the truth to be real for once." It wasn't long before the rumors started to shift. Clara had always been good at controlling the narrative, but the more she tried to explain away my quiet exit, the more obvious it became that something wasn't adding up. Some of our friends had seen her flirting with that guy, Evan, at the office parties. At first, everyone thought it was harmless. Clara was flirty with everyone. But now, people were remembering things. Small details. The way she'd light up when Evan walked in the room. The way she'd always laugh a little too hard at his jokes. One of Evan's friends reached out to me, almost sheepish. "Hey, I think you should know." Clara was telling Evan she was single. "For weeks. I don't think he knew about you at all." I just nodded. It didn't sting the way I thought it would. It just confirmed what I already knew. Clara, meanwhile, tried to hold on to her version of the story. She posted about it online, little passive-aggressive digs about some people never appreciating what they have, pictures of her out at bars with friends, smiling too wide, captions that were a little too pointed. But the comments under those photos started to change. Questions. Doubts. The truth slipping through like water through cracked concrete. By the end of the month, Clara's closest allies had started to fade away. Not everyone, but enough. Enough that I didn't feel like I was crazy anymore. Enough that I knew people saw her for who she really was, or at least, for who she had been with me. I didn't gloat. I didn't send any final messages or post any triumphant updates. I just watched it unfold, quietly. I spent my evenings fixing up my new place, hanging shelves, building a small table for my plants. I went for long walks through the city, the late summer air thick and sweet. I called my dad and told him about the new apartment, how it already felt more like home than the condo ever had. And when I hung up, I'd sit in the quiet and let myself feel the small, simple victory of it all. Clara had always thought she could talk circles around me. She'd made me feel like I was small and slow, like I didn't know how the world worked. But the thing she never understood was that I didn't need to win the argument. I just needed to walk away. And as the truth of who she was slowly spread through our circle of friends, I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd finally laid down a weight I'd been carrying for too long. I didn't care if everyone believed me. I didn't care if everyone liked me. I was done living my life to keep other people comfortable. Clara could have her stories. I had the truth, and that was enough. A couple weeks after the social fallout started, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, Thomas. Can we talk? It's Evan." My stomach tightened when I read it. Evan. The coworker Clara had been cozy with. The one everyone assumed was just another harmless office crush, or at least that's what she'd always said. I hesitated for a second, wondering if this was some kind of setup, another game she was playing to paint herself as the victim. But then I thought, screw it. I'd already stopped living in fear of her. What did I have to lose? I called him. He answered on the first ring. His voice was quiet, a little shaky. "Thomas, I'm sorry," he said before I could even say hello. I didn't know she had a partner. I swear. I took a breath, my fingers gripping the phone a little too tightly. "It's fine," I said. "I'm not mad at you." He let out a long sigh. "Look, I didn't come here to cause more drama. I thought you should see this." He sent a bunch of screenshots, text between him and Clara, late-night conversations that went on for weeks. I read through them slowly. Clara telling him she was single, that I was just an old friend she'd been living with for a while because of the rent, that she'd been trying to find the right time to officially end it. The words jumped out at me. I'm just waiting until it's safe to move on. He's comfortable, but not exciting. I think you and I have a real chance. I felt a cold calm settle over me as I read. It was like the final piece of a puzzle I hadn't realized I was missing. I didn't know, Evan said again, his voice low. She told me all these things. She made it sound like you were just a roommate she didn't know how to shake. I swallowed hard. It's okay, Evan, I said quietly. You didn't know. It's not on you. There was a pause. I feel like a fool, he said. But I needed you to see it. To know you're not crazy. You deserve to know. Thank you, I said. And I meant it. More than he probably knew. When we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, the screenshot still open on my phone. It was surreal, seeing the exact words that had slipped from her mouth to someone else. Seeing how easy it was for her to lie. But I didn't feel angry anymore. Or sad. Just relieved. Relieved that it wasn't just in my head. That it wasn't me being paranoid or too sensitive. That the feeling I'd had, the cold, creeping doubt that had sat in my gut for months, had been real. It was like a weight slid off my shoulders. Like I'd been holding my breath for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to really breathe. I didn't send the screenshots to anyone else. I didn't need to. They weren't for proving anything to other people. They were for me. My own quiet closure. I blocked Evan's number after that, not because I was angry, but because I didn't want to drag him back into something he never meant to be a part of. He'd done enough just by telling me the truth. I spent that night alone in my apartment, the city lights flickering outside my window. I made a small dinner, watched an old documentary about bridge collapses, something I could lose myself in for a while. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could just be. No more second-guessing every word. No more wondering if I was the problem. No more waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was done. I went to sleep with my phone off, my mind clear. The screenshots, the final nail in that coffin, were tucked away in a folder, saved but not shared. Evan had given me something I didn't even know I needed. The truth, plain and unvarnished. And that was enough for me to finally, fully let go. A couple weeks after Evan's message, I thought things were finally quiet. I'd stopped checking social media, stopped listening to the gossip that trickled back to me through mutual friends. I was focused on my work, on building something that was mine again, clean, honest, real. But of course, that's not how it ended. It was a Saturday morning when my phone rang. It was my mom. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the worry. Thomas, she said, Clara showed up here. I felt my stomach tighten. She what? She came by early this morning, my mom said. She was crying. She said she needed to talk to you. I closed my eyes, already feeling the weight of it pressing down on me. What did she say? She said she'd made mistakes, my mom said softly. She said she still cared about you. She wanted us to help her talk to you. I could almost hear the old me in the back of my mind. The one who would have felt responsible, who would have felt guilty. But that voice was quieter now, and I didn't have any space left for it. Mom, I said steady and calm. I don't want to see her. I don't want to talk to her. This is done. My mom was quiet for a second. I know, she said. I told her she needed to leave. I said you didn't want to see her. She tried to argue, but I didn't let her stay. I felt my shoulders relax, just a little. Thank you. She said she'd wait. My mom continued. She said she'd stay out front until you talked to her. I told her if she didn't leave, I'd call the police. I took a deep breath, letting the relief wash over me. My parents and I had always had a good relationship, but I'd never asked them to take sides like this. Hearing my mom stand firm, for me, not out of obligation, but because she knew what was right, it meant more than I could say. She left after that, my mom said. She was upset, but she left. And I want you to know, your dad and I are proud of how you're handling this. We're here for you. We're always here. I felt a knot in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I know, I said. I'm okay, Mom. Really. After we hung up, I sat for a long time at the small kitchen table in my new place. The morning sun was streaming in through the window, the light warm and clean. I thought about Clara's tears, her desperation, and how, once upon a time, I would have rushed to comfort her, to fix it, to save her from the fallout she'd created. But not this time. This time, I didn't know her anything. Later that afternoon, my dad called. Son, he said quietly, I just wanted to tell you again, you did the right thing. Clara's troubles aren't your responsibility. You don't have to carry that weight anymore. I know, Dad, I said. And I meant it. We're proud of you, he said. You're not the kind of man who walks away from his problems. You're the kind of man who knows when something isn't worth saving. That's strength, Thomas, not weakness. I didn't have words for that, so I just said, thank you. And we both understood that was enough. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. No more second-guessing. No more feeling like I was the bad guy for walking away. I'd learned something I should have known all along. Family isn't about who makes the biggest promises or who can shout the loudest. It's about who stands with you, steady and quiet, when it matters most. And as I drifted off to sleep, I realized that for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring. Because I knew, finally, completely, that I wasn't alone. And I didn't have to let anyone back in who didn't deserve a place in my life. The weeks after Clara showed up at my parents' place felt like a slow exhale. Like I'd been holding my breath for so long I'd forgotten how to just exist. The condo was a memory now. I'd gotten everything I needed, and the rest I didn't even want. My new apartment still smelled faintly of fresh paint, and every time I stepped inside, I felt lighter. It started small. A new couch, one I picked out myself, plain gray, comfortable. Not trendy or expensive, just mine. A couple of plants from a local nursery, little bursts of green that made the place feel like home. I unpacked my books, the dog-eared documentaries, the engineering manuals, even a battered copy of Into Thin Air that Clara used to roll her eyes at. I put them on a shelf, not caring if anyone thought they were boring. On Saturday mornings, I'd wake up early and take long walks down by the lake. The city felt new again, like I was seeing it through different eyes. I'd grab a coffee from a corner shop, sit by the water, and just watch the boats drift by. Sometimes, I'd bring a small sketch pad and draw the bridges or the skyline, lines and angles and shadows that had nothing to do with anyone but me. I signed up for a woodworking class at a local community center. It was something I'd always wanted to do, not for money or ambition, just because I liked the way it felt to make something with my hands. The first time I ran my fingers over the smooth, sanded wood, I felt a strange sort of peace. Like I was building something solid in a world that had felt shaky for too long. My therapist, someone I'd finally reached out to after everything, called it reclaiming your identity. I called it breathing room. We talked a lot about the things Clara used to call my quirks, the documentaries, the calls to my dad, the fact that I liked simple routines. She'd always acted like they were flaws, but my therapist said they were parts of me that made me steady, grounded. They're your roots, she said. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of them. Some nights, I'd come home from work and just sit on the balcony with a beer and let the city sounds wash over me. No one telling me I was boring. No one mocking the way I like to end the day in quiet. Just the hum of traffic, the glow of streetlights, and the calm of knowing I didn't have to be anything for anyone but myself. A couple months in, I met someone new. Not in any romantic way, just a simple connection. Her name was Lila, a barista at a little coffee shop near the woodworking class. She was easy to talk to, never pushed for more than I wanted to share. We'd chat while she made my coffee, talk about music and local hikes and whether the city's skyline looked better at dawn or dusk. She didn't know my whole story, and I didn't feel the need to explain it. It felt normal, easy, like I was finally allowed to have small, simple moments without them turning into something else. One afternoon, I walked into the coffee shop after a long day, and she smiled. "Hey, Thomas," she said, handing me my usual. "You look relaxed." I paused, felt my face stretch into an answering smile. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." Later that night, back in my apartment, I thought about how long it had been since I'd felt that. Just relaxed. Just okay. No half-hidden tension in my shoulders, no worries about what Clara would say or do next. Just me, in my own space, living my own life. For years, I'd let Clara's voice fill up every quiet corner of my mind, telling me I wasn't enough, that I was boring, that I was too attached to my dad, to my routines, to the things that made me feel steady. But sitting there in the soft lamplight of my apartment, I realized her voice was gone. It was finally quiet. I was done being the background character in someone else's story. Done making myself small so she could feel big. Done waiting for permission to just live. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. Living in a way that felt honest and real. Living in a way that didn't need anyone's approval but my own. I knew it would take time. Healing isn't a finish line. It's a slow climb. But with every small step, every shelf hung, every walk by the lake, every coffee shared in quiet conversation, I felt more like myself. And that was worth everything. A few weeks after I started feeling like myself again, Clara sent one last message. It was late on a Wednesday night, and I was at my kitchen table finishing a late dinner, some leftover pasta, a glass of red wine. My phone buzzed and there it was, her name on my screen, a small window into a past I'd been slowly closing. "Thomas, I was just joking that night," she wrote. "You're overreacting. Can we please just talk?" I stared at the message for a long time, feeling the old reflexes stir, the instinct to make her feel better, to smooth things over, to question if I really had been too sensitive. For years, I'd let her words twist around me like barbed wire, until I couldn't tell where her voice ended and mine began. But this time, I didn't fall for it. This time, I didn't need to argue or explain. I didn't need to remind her or myself what she'd done. Instead, I scrolled through my saved files until I found the voice recording I'd made of that phone call she'd had with her brother, the one where she said she was just riding it out until her bonus hit. The one that made everything so painfully, perfectly clear. I attached the recording to a reply and typed 2 simple words. Here's you. I watched the screen for a moment, saw the delivered notification pop up, the little check mark that meant she'd received it. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need to. Then I blocked her number for good. It felt final. Like a weight lifting off my shoulders, something I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. The part of me that always wondered if maybe I'd been unfair, if maybe I'd made too big a deal out of it, went quiet. Because in that one simple exchange, I saw it for what it was, not just one night of cruel jokes, but years of little digs and dismissals. Years of letting her voice drown out mine. Years of pretending it was okay to be the punchline of her stories. And I was done with it. Completely. After I blocked her, I set my phone down and walked out to the small balcony off my bedroom. The city was quiet, the streets below still and calm. I leaned on the railing and took a deep breath, the cool night air filling my lungs. I thought about how different my life felt now. Not in the big ways, maybe, my job was the same, my friends were mostly the same, but in the small, quiet ways that actually mattered. No more second-guessing myself. No more feeling like I had to shrink to fit someone else's idea of who I should be. I was done living in someone else's shadow. I took a sip of my wine and let my mind drift. There was no dramatic music playing, no sweeping feeling of triumph. Just a quiet satisfaction, a calm certainty that I'd done the right thing. It wasn't about punishing Clara. It wasn't about getting even. It was about finally, truly letting go. Letting go of her voice in my head. Letting go of the guilt that never should have been mine. Letting go of the idea that my worth was tied to someone else's opinion of me. She tried to rewrite the story, to pretend it was just one bad night. But I knew better. I lived every day of that story, and I knew exactly how it ended. Not with me angry or bitter. Not with me waiting for an apology that would never come. Just with me quiet, steady, and free. I stood there until the chill of the night made me shiver, then went back inside. I cleaned up the dishes, turned off the lights, and crawled into bed. As I lay there in the dark, I realized this was it, the real ending. No more Clara, no more drama. Just me, living a life that felt honest and mine. And I was okay with that. More than okay, actually. I was finally free.